Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the situation report or the summary for the day of 951 for the 1st of October for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. We have more frontline changes after the frontline changes report, and a very significant one at that. Over in Vasiloi, in the Kursk front, Russian forces have counterattacked and successfully taken a huge amount of grounds back from the Ukrainians in the south of Vasiloi. The way how I map this is based on my assumption where the Russian forces are coming from this direction. But they of course could potentially come from the north, but I feel like given the area and where it is, the attack is a drone strike. I feel like the Russian forces most likely have taken control of all these forest lines, because to come to this area here, I believe that they have to drive down here, and the fact that the Ukrainians use FPV drone strike suggests that this area here is most likely already under Russian control, because the Ukrainians can't possibly go there, because the Russian forces still have control of Abod, and it would be a bit difficult, to drive there. So most likely the Russian forces have taken all of this position in the east or southeast of Vasiloi, and more updates from the Kursk front. Over at the western flank of the Kursk front, this is where the Russians were conducting their counteroffensive. The Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged that the Russian forces have taken huge chunk of grounds around the Obukovka region, with Russian forces heading closer to Porovsky, Darino, and Nikolaevo Darino. This is a concession by the Ukrainian mapping of the latest updates from Obukovka. So this means that in a single day, the Russian forces have taken back grounds in the Kursk region all at the same time, and definitely making it look like the Kursk operation is a huge disaster for the Ukrainians right now. There's one more frontline change is over at Voleda. This is actually a much more smaller one. Ukrainian mapping have updated their map to acknowledge the fall of Voleda, and in their mapping they also claim that this area here is under Russian control. So this is just one slight change. It's just a feel, not big of a deal, and I don't think the Ukrainian forces are along any of these three lines at all. I don't think they are going to be there. I think the withdrawal will be far away. So anyway, we'll go to the strategy and tactical reporting. And so let's go to the Kursk front first then. It looks like this is some interesting situation around that is developing. So over in the Grushkovo sector, the Russian forces have counterattacked in this area here and managed to take some grounds. And however, the Russian Defense Ministry's report, they always say that they are attacking Novi Put. So which means that there could be potential that the Russians have already taken grounds around Novi Put region. The Ukrainian forces are still attacking Vasiloi, according to the information from Ryba, the pro-Russian source. And however, whether they have control of Vasiloi, are they in the north, on the west, or not? It remains to be seen. So the fog have returned to this Grushkovo sector, and it's starting to be a bit more difficult to tell where the front line at this moment is. Of course, tentatively, I would say that there is a high possibility that the Russian line might actually be like this. With exception of Novi Put, the Russians may have already retaken Vasiloi and Apukovka, which then will corroborate some of these rumors coming from the pro-Russian side that the Ukrainian, after the initial success at the north of Vasiloi, have entirely been taken out or have been pushed back out of Vasiloi. But tentatively, we still do not have objective evidence of that happened, and that is also, of course, quite some time ago, quite a number of days ago. So we will continue to monitor, and we previously have these rumors from the Russian side saying that the Ukrainians have withdrawn from Medvedze, and given the fact that the Russians are making advances in the southeast and east of Vasiloi, there's a high chance that this might actually be true. It might be the beginning of the Ukrainian forces giving up the Grushkovo offensive. So we shall continue to monitor the situation over in this part of the Kursk front, the Grushkovo front. And over in the western flank, the Russian forces continue their counteroffensive at Lyubimovka, wrong color, Lyubimovka, Obukovka region, and Nikolaevo Darino. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they only mentioned Lyubimovka and Nikolaevo Darino. And so it's interesting that they only talk about these two locations. The center part was not mentioned. So anyway, this, of course, the frontline changes report that I've just mentioned at the beginning of this video clearly shows the Russian advances around this area. The distance of advance is around 2 kilometers, so it's actually quite a bit of distance. So despite the mapping looks very very small, the place, actually everything is very big. Everything is upscale in this area here. It's a very big, like what this small little field over here, it looks small. Is the capture ground is already 1.3 kilometers. The whole stretch all the way to the other road is around 2.5 kilometers. The area here is just insane. It's just very hard to understand with just looking at this satellite imagery, because everything is just upsized. It's just not in the same size as the Ukrainian farms. These farms are all much bigger than the Ukrainian ones. So so there's the current situation around here over in this western flank. Over in the northern flank, there is no more reports of Ukrainian attacks in this northern flank. Let me check. Why is there no Kursk offensive reports? Wait. So I've just double checked. Yeah, there is actually reports. This is the Russian Defense Ministry report, but I did miss out one report when when I checked. Ukrainians did attack Novi Put. So they attacked Vasiloye and Novi Put. So there was an attack on Novi Put. The Russians are attacking and clashing them over there. So just some correction over there. That's all from this sector. The northern flank, I've just double checked. There is no Ukrainian attacks in the northern flank. There is a geolocation of a Russian airstrike at Kremyanoe region. So that's all from the northern flank. Looks like the entire northern operation. Previously, the Ukrainians attacked Ogovka, Kremyanoe, as well as Chemishevka. Looks like this operation has failed. So there's no frontline changes being reported and whatnot. No geolocation, no information. So that's all from this area. Over in this southern flank, the Ukrainians are still counter-attacking over Blakovo, with the Russians also attacking. So they are still clashing over the Blakovo region, and that's all that we know at this moment. So that's it from the Kursk front. Over in the Kharkiv front, the Russian forces are still conducting their offensive operations in Lipsy, Staresia, Voschansk, and Verchansky Kotori. So this is a mixed report between the Russian and Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So the Russians are still operating around here. Very, very interesting, I would say. Moving into the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, Russian forces attack at Sinkivka towards Kurylivka. It could be just shelling. And sorry, is this Kurylivka? Let me see. Kurylivka, correct? No, Kurylivka, and also Stepova Novoselivka. So that's all from the reports. This could be just shelling, given the fact that there is no close front line nearby. Over in the Pischane front, at the Pischane front, let me see, can I squeeze in? Okay, I can't. So, Pischane front, the Russian forces attack at Novo-Osinove, Glushkivka, Kolesnikivka, Krylyakivka, towards Lozova and Stemekivka. There is a geolocation of artillery shelling over in this town of, what is this called? Zarizove. So, and it's been some time since we saw all of the four light up, in attacks, which means that the Russians may be starting a major offensive, and this is evidence of the rest of the front line across Ukraine. The Russians seems to have up another gear. After it seems like the fall of Voleda is the trigger for expanded operation in the rest of Ukraine. So this is currently something that I'm observing. Of course, this is not necessarily the truth or the fact, because this is just my observation. So we'll continue to monitor and see if that's the case, if the Russians actually launch a major autumn offensive. But it's starting to feel a bit like it, because as we go on with this SITREP, you'll start to see that there is more and more stuff that's currently happening. I mentioned in the previous SITREP, I saw the reports of the capture of Vishneve. This is correct. So the Russians have reported the capture of Vishneve. The Ukrainians only mentioned that they're still fighting around here, which means that the Russians may have advanced around Andriivka, Zarine region, and they have managed to make a breakthrough. So this is actually pretty significant because this changes the strategic situation around here. So we'll continue to monitor, and this is not the only place that the Russian announced a capture that is a surprise. So I'm going to scroll down, and you'll probably see what I mean later in the Sivas front. The Russians also reported there's the Russians also fighting in the southern part of the Svetove front over at Kharkivka. Russian forces advanced in Makiivka, as mentioned in the frontline changes report, as they have advanced over there. Fighting is reported at Nevsky and Novosadove. So that is the Russian operations around in this sector along the Zebrebets River. Moving into the Crimea front, there is only fighting reported in the Serbiansky forestry. Yampil appears on the report mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry about attack on Ukrainian forces in Yampil. So we'll just keep track and see what this is. Very, very curious. I wonder is it an attack or is it just shelling reports. So nearby, there is also shelling reported at Stavki. This is also under the same report. So we shall see how this continue to develop. Over the Sivas front, crazy news. The Russian Defense Ministry in today's report. So this is today's report. This is not because this is a SITREP for yesterday, but in today's report they mentioned the capture of Verkhovno-Okayamsky, and this is massive because if they actually captures Verkhovno-Okayamsky, then the entire front line here is just entirely different from what we have at this moment. And we have no updates of frontline changes around here for a long time. And remember, as I did mention long ago, that because the Russians have announced the capture of Ivano Darivka, we have some geolocation of that. They announced the capture of Vimka, and now they talk about the capture of Verkhovno-Okayamsky. The front line may now actually looks like this. This may actually be the front line, and which then can explain away why we have fighting reported at Sivas, why we have attacks at Zvanivka. So this might actually be the crazy front line that we are not seeing over in the Sivas front. So Verkhovno-Okayamsky, and then maybe not Novoselivka, they have captured Ivano Darivka, they have captured Vimka, so it could look something like this. This is a massive discrepancy between what is likely is currently happening on the ground versus the mappings that we have from the various sources. No one has mapped it in this way, and I'm reluctant to just map it the way how I think it is, because everything on this map is sourced, and I cannot be my own source because I do not plan to do that, and I don't have the sources that is on the ground that feed me this information. So I don't want to be responsible for wrong mapping in that sense. So anyway, whatever it is, slight frontline change over in the north of Sperne, and the fighting is reported at Fedorivka. But honestly, the capture of Verkhovno-Okayamsky is massive. It's just as shocking, if not more shocking, than the previous one that we have mentioned earlier just now. What's that freaking place? Forgot the place. Where's that place again? This one. Vishneve. Yeah. So this is all the VVs are getting captured. Very, very inappropriate, because we all know VOZ is all pro-Russian letters. So yeah, very, very terrible. And so we move on into the north of Bakhmut. In the northern flank of Bakhmut, you can see that the front line, the fighting is also looking very fierce. Fighting is reported at Zeleniansky, Kharkivka, towards Makove, towards Maisky, Chasivya. So that the operations just seems very expanded since the fall of Voleda, or since the falling of Voleda. It started when the Voleda is already falling. So very, very significant operations around here. In the south of Bakhmut, we have fighting reported as Tuposhki, Klishevka, and Andriivka. The Andriivka one is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, by the way. So this means that the entire Bakhmut front is pretty much very engaged. So other than the Zeleniansky, I can put all this in one mapping. You can see that this is all the arrows that is currently happening all at the same time. So a lot of operations around the Bakhmut front. So we shall continue to monitor and see how this continue to develop. Over in the New York front, Russian forces are attacking at Druzhba, Torex, and Sukhobalka. So this is the only attacks being reported. There is a geolocation of Russian strike, artillery strike on Klebanvik. So it might be related to the shelling reported by the Russian Defense Ministry the day before. And there is also continued advance of Russian forces in the center of Torex, as mentioned in the frontline changes report, as the Russians form the front line into a stegosaurus. So for those that do not know, yeah, there is a stegosaurus around here. So let me zoom in a bit. So this is the head of the stegosaurus, and then this the legs, and then this the the shield plate, and yeah, he's looking really happy. So anyway, this stegosaurus is going to continue to evolve into something else as the Russians seem to continue to make progress. As you can see, the two districts. So there's two districts of high-rise buildings, and the Russians have already almost fully capturing one of them. So yeah, and if all the high-rise building is taken, I think this settlement, this city is going to be in deep shit. It's going to be under Russian control. So, but we shall see how this goes. But of course, the pro-Russians will say that it's not necessarily shitty if you're under Russian rule, right? So, but yeah, let's see. Some say Russia don't have toilet. No, they don't use toilet bowl, or they don't use toilet. Some say. But no, some also say the Russians use shovel to fight. So anyway, I just have to say, Ukrainians can't even defeat people fighting with shovels. Anyway, moving on to, over in the northern flank of the Pokrov front, Russian forces are fighting at Vozdvizenka, Yelizavitevka, Novotoretsk, and Mariolubivka. There is geolocation of Russian forces south of Novotoretsk, and so that's all from the northern flank of the Pokrov front. Again, I don't think that there is a serious motivations to really push out from this area here. Is continue to be a pinning operation around here. Over in the Horodivka, Novohorodivka sector, so the Pokrov is here. This is the final boss. The Russian forces are fighting at Horodivka. They have updated the front line a little bit in this area, capturing some of the entrenchments, and there is major advance around Mykolaiivka as the Russians attack over there, and fighting reported at Krasnaya. And Mykolaiivka is on the verge of falling given this change, and these are all very major changes, because this is a very heavily defendable and defended place. There is a shielding the second boss, which is the Minograd. So the fall of this defensive sector will bring this entire city of Minograd into a risk, a major strategic tactical problem, because this doesn't look very defended, Minograd. So we shall see how these go. The Russians also continue their attack at Lysivka and in the area of Novohorodivka. So that's all from this sector of the Pokrov front, as the Russians continue to move towards Pokrov. And we move further south in the Selidove region. So can I squeeze in? Yeah, I probably can. So in the Selidove region, Russian forces continue to attack Selidove, with the Russian mapping claimed massive amount of grounds being captured. Russian forces is now poised to attack Selidove across the entire southern flanks of the Selidove. Russian forces also expanded their control on the east and the north of Sukharini, as well as continue to move south of Sukharini. So the Sukharini is now almost more than half encircled at this moment. Situation is developing very quickly, and you can see the frontline changes is huge. So just the northern piece here is 4.2 kilometers, 4.2 square kilometers. The other piece is 2. This another one is 0.7. So a lot of frontline changes, just with the fall of Voleda, and we continue to move further south from this area here, and the entire Khernik region has went nuts. The Russian mapping have claimed that they have taken more grounds, and the Nevelsky salient have fallen further to almost completion. Fighting is now reaching Zeleny Druhi, and fighting is reported at Khernik as the Russians establish a stronger and stronger foothold in this outskirt of Khernik. So there is the current situation around this area as the Russians push south of Sukharini, threatening to cut the links between Izmailivka as well as Novoselidivka. And so that is going to be a problem that will force the Ukrainians to have to move along the southern route, which is actually more problematic to move through. And so that's all from this area here in this southern flank of the Pokrovsk front or the northern part of the Donetsk front. We move into this Kurakove sector. At the Kurakove sector, Russian forces are attacking at Hostre, Ostrivsky, Maximilianivka, and this comes with a massive capture of everything, securing of the northern outskirts of Maximilianivka. This is based on Russian claims. This is not confirmed yet. Fighting is also reported at Georgievka. So this is a massive update from the Russian side. So let me, can I zoom? Yeah, maybe too much. So Russian forces has taken all the high grounds and the cliff region north of Maximilianivka. So as they continue to put pressure, and with this front line looking like this, I don't think the Ukrainians can actually hold the line because this is a bit too narrow. With the Russians cutting the road and having fire control, that would mean the roads to the front line is merely less than a kilometer. So it's very well in range of fire powers. Fire attacks, so the roads cannot be used anymore. So it's going to be a big problem for the Ukrainians to hold Maximilianivka further. So that's all from this area. When we move further south into the Vodyane-Konstantinivka region, Russian forces continue to attack Konstantinivka, Katerinivka, in the Vodyane region and towards Bohovkivlenka. So this one already covered in the situation report yesterday, so I'm not going to rehash again around the Vodyane region. So Russian mapping claimed that they have taken all the outskirts of Katerinivka in the east and the southeast, and this means that the Russians are now ready to attack Katerinivka in the next strike. So this is also all massive updates. Massive frontline changes. Every day there's so much frontline changes. It's crazy. And over in the Voleda region, we have further news from Voleda. So we have some geolocation of Russian forces at the tree line. This is Russian forces attacking this area here that was probably dated a few days, I guess. And there is a flag raised in the center of Voleda, further confirming that the Russians have full control of Voleda. And the announcement has been now not just by DPA through the geolocation, but by Deep State UA and RIBA also both have acknowledged this. The official, the defense ministries have not acknowledged this yet, but the pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian sources both have already acknowledged this. Of course, I mentioned the frontline change around here. There's a minute change, not very important. And fighting is still being reported. Not fighting is reported, but there is some updates around here mentioning the frontline change, so I put it here anyway. And according to the Kotovsky group of forces, the Ukrainian forces, the command in charge of this sector, they have confirmed that they officially concede that they have lost Voleda. So they say that the Russians have managed to conduct flanking attacks, which depleted the reserve of the Ukrainian forces. As a result, there is a threat of encirclement. So the High Command have given permission for the forces to withdraw from Voleda to preserve personnel and military equipment. So this is a concession by the Ukrainian side, by the official armed forces, the units that was fighting in this sector, that they have lost Voleda. This is an official confirmation right now. So of course, there is no other way to escape it, because there's too many geolocations that fully confirm the fall of Voleda. So there's no way they can hide this information at all. So we move further on. In the Velika Novosilka sector, Russian forces are still attacking Zolota Neva and Rivnopil. So we'll continue to monitor the situation. Zolota Neva is going to be next at the chopping board. So someone asked me, well, where is the next city or settlement is going to be holding? Then I said Zolota Neva, one of them. So we move further on. And over in the Zaporizhia front, Russian forces continue their major harassment operations around here. This fighting is reported in the Kayamsky and the Orikhiv sector. This is Orikhiv, this is Kayamsky. Russian forces attack at Mala Tomachka, towards Novodanilivka, Mali, Shabaki, as well as Kayamsky. So the Russians are continuing to put harassment operations around here. And we move further on away from the Zaporizhia front. We move all the way to the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, there is only shelling reported over at Ternivka and Kherson. Otherwise, that's all from this area here. And that's it. So this is the situation report or the summary for the day of 951 for the 1st of October. Press the like button, subscribe. This is for those that find this really dry. Yeah, this is a military style report, so it is what it is. Except that the military will not draw a stegosaurus on the map clearly, right? So otherwise, so that's all from this situation in Ukraine, and probably will do a conclusion later because there's so much to talk about. And I'll see you guys in the next update.